Hey everyone, welcome to the Notorious Money Show. It is your host, Adrian Nino de Guzman, and today we're on the path of financial liberation. Today we're on the path of establishing your rich life. But before that, just a little bit of a story. In the Bible, in the book of Genesis, we read and we learn of the story of Joseph, who was betrayed by his brothers and sold into Egypt and basically into slavery. His brothers wanted Joseph, which was their younger brother, and out of jealousy, they wanted him to be killed or to be forgotten by their father. Joseph goes into Egypt and climbs the ranks by establishing the trust and outperforming everybody that he was around. Joseph, with his talents, was able to shine so much so that he became one of Pharaoh's highest counselors in all of Egypt. And because of that trust, Pharaoh gives Joseph, later on in the story, the opportunity to bring all of his family from essentially the wilderness to live and prosper in the land of milk and honey at the time, which was Egypt. Joseph runs into his brothers after many years, forgives them, and then takes Pharaoh up on his offer to bring all of his family into Egypt. Many years later, the Israelites start to grow in number. They start to have descendants and children. And after Pharaoh dies, a new Pharaoh came into reign and power. And that Pharaoh did not have the same relationship that the previous one had with Joseph and the Israelites. That Pharaoh deems that the Israelites are a threat to Egypt. And because he wanted to glorify himself and continue to build the Egyptian empire, he deems that every Israelite become a slave and work and live their lives in bondage. So the Egyptians, with the slave work of the Israelites, the Egyptians are able to build pyramids and build other monuments for their culture and tradition. This happens for 430 years until finally Moses, who out of mistake is born into an Egyptian family, into Pharaoh's family, then liberates the Israelites out of bondage 430 years later. So for many of us to find personal financial liberation, we must first understand that right now we are funding, and in a financial sense, we are currently in financial bondage as we are paying high interest rates. We are paying multiple credit cards, have multiple loans, and owe a significant amount of money to Egypt, which in this story represents all of the financial institutions and all of the creditors whom we owe money. Like my friend Dave Ramsey always says, the debtor, the borrower, is slave to the lender. And so many of us are living in that lifestyle right now because we're wanting to keep up with the Joneses. And instead of building our very own pyramids of wealth and our very own Egypt, we are financing the Egypt of people who are living in a fancy office that we will never see. And we are financing their empire and their kingdoms. JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, and the list goes on and on. So how do we begin to build our pyramid of wealth? The first step is to know thy debt. Know thy debt and embark on the exodus of financial freedom. Become your very own Moses. But in order for you to become the Moses of your financial story, right now what you have to do is understand how much you owe all of your creditors, how much you owe Egypt, and then fire Egypt. Get out of Egypt. Embark on an exodus to the promised land of financial wealth. So you do that by knowing how much you owe all of your creditors. And once you know that, once you establish and know how much you owe, you work vigorously to get out of debt. You make as many payments as you can. Minimums on all high balances, snowball method, and then obviously higher payments on the lowest balance that you owe. And start to tack on higher payments on then the bigger loans or credit cards where you have a revolving balance on. You start doing that, but you need to know and understand the number, how much you owe. And remember that for a lot of us, that is the first thing that causes us pain, to know the truth of our financial situation. But something, you guys, that in 2024 I want you all to understand is that the pain of regret is much worse than the pain of discipline. Right now is the time to face the financial truth and face Pharaoh just like Moses in the past and get the hell out of Egypt. So how you do that first is to know thy debt, and then understanding that in this economy, the most important thing is to be free. Free as an individual, but to be free and have the rights to property, to assets, and the freedom of your own money and your own wallet. So 2024 is the time to embark on the exodus of financial freedom. And we're going to do it together. We're going to get out of debt. And I want all of you to just remember to not live with the pain of regret. Understand how much you know thy debt, and then from there we will build Noah's Ark together as we embark on the financial exodus, and we build the safety account, the rainy day account, the emergency fund account, which is Noah's Ark. And we'll talk about that on the next episode of Notorious Money. Hey, if you guys love this content, give me a like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next chapter of Notorious Money.